Good day everyone, this is Cheezel, and in this video we will be discussing the conic section ellipse. So ellipse looks similar to a circle but is uneven. It's not equal in all sides. Let's start with this equation. X squared over 25 plus y squared over 49. And let's say that equals to 1. Now, the general equations for an ellipse is x minus h squared over a plus y minus k squared over b is equals to 1. Now, the a squared is not always under x. A squared could be under y minus k. We need to know to distinguish between a and b. A squared is the larger of the two. So in this case, for this problem, that we have, this is actually a squared because 49 is larger than 25 and 25 is actually b squared. Now, we need to realize that the center is 0, 0. So, because of the just x squared and y squared, if it's not like that, like x minus 2 or y plus 3, then the center is 0, 0. So, it's based on the origin. Now, since a squared is equals to 49, what this means is that a is equals to 7 and 7 is under y squared. So, from the origin, we need to go 7 unit up and 7 unit down. The way we plot is very similar to a circle, but there is no radius, and radius A and B are different.
A and B are different. If A and B were the same, then it would be a circle. Now, B squared is 25. So if you take the square root of 25, that's 5. And B is under X, so we need to go 5 units to the right and 5 units to the left. And then we just connect those points. So that's how you can graph an ellipse. Now you need to know that this axis right here is called the major axis, but it's vertical, so it's the major vertical axis. This line here, because it's shorter, it is known as the minor axis, but it's horizontal. So it's the minor horizontal axis, and this one is the major vertical axis. So let's say if you get a question and they ask you for what is the major vertical axis length, how long is it? The major vertical axis, it's always equal to twice the value of A. And so in this case, I'm going to write MA for major axis. Since it's equal to 2A, it's 14. The length of the minor axis is twice the value of B. So 2 times B, it's 10. By the way, the endpoints of the major axis, which is 0, 7 and 0, -7, those endpoints are known as vertices, which is the plural form of vertex. So some books will call it the major vertices, and other textbooks will call the endpoints of the minor axis like the minor vertices. If they don't use the word minor, then the vertices correspond to the endpoint of the major axis. Now the only other thing we need to find is the foci. The foci it's along the major axis, but whenever you have a graph that opens up, the foci is somewhere in the middle. So there should be a foci somewhere along this major axis, between 0 and 7. To find it, you need to use this equation. C squared is equal to A squared, not plus, but minus B squared. For a hyperbola, it's A squared plus B squared, kind of like the Pythagorean theorem, but for an ellipse, it's A squared minus B squared, because C is less than A, and I'll explain why shortly. But let's solve for C squared. We already know the value of A squared, and this is B squared, so it's 49 minus 25. and that's 24. But if you take the square root of both sides, the square root of 24, we can reduce that to root 4 and root 6. So it's 2 root 6. So the foci, the coordinates of the foci, x is 0, y is c, so it's plus or minus 2 root 6. As a decimal, 2 root 6 is about 4.89, so just under 5. So the foci should be somewhere over here and somewhere over here. So it's inside. Imagine this ellipse as like a half parabola. It's inside of it. So that's why the foci, that's why c is less than a. And so therefore it's c squared equals a squared minus b squared, because a is bigger than c. As you can see, this is the value of a, which is longer, and this is the value of c. C is the distance between the center of the ellipse and the foci. So if the origin is not 0, 0, then the coordinates of the foci will be affected. By the way, sometimes you may get a question that asks you for the x and y intercepts. For this particular example, the y-intercepts are basically the endpoints of the major axis, which is 0, 7 and 0, negative 7. So those are the y-intercepts. The x-intercepts are the endpoints of the minor axis. So in this case, it's plus or minus 5, comma 0. That's a nice way to write it if you don't want to write it twice.